Okay, thank you very much. Welcome here at this beautiful place, at Productboard. And today I would like to talk about Kotlin scope extension function, scope and extension function, and how do they do not improve your code. My name is Václav Chalupa. Thanks for the introduction. I am staff software engineer at Sentinel-1, and something required from me. Sentinel-1 is cybersecurity company, and it's building a singularity data platform, handling endpoint cloud and identity protection. And me personally, I'm working in vigilance department, responsible for threat hunting and manage detection and response services. And I'm not like the MDR analyst, but I'm building the platform for them. And we are using Kotlin. So agenda for today, it's really short. It's about like extension function and scope function. But I don't have any ambition to talk about the theory behind these concepts. There is like much better resources than me. But I would like to talk about some like balance between like the code readability, the architecture design, and let's call it cool factor when you are using such powerful concepts. Just to check it, with here familiar with Kotlin and scope and extension functions? Anyone here? Okay, great, it will be better because I will do some brief intro and then we will play with it, and it will be more about like thinking whether it's a good approach or not. So let's start with the extension functions. So just sum it up, it's some like ability from Kotlin to extend existing classes or interfaces with new functionality without inheritance or decorator pattern. Does anyone know decorator pattern? I didn't use it for like 10 years maybe. So, but it's useful definitely. Let's start with some coding. I hope that the second mic is working. Okay. So you can see that, or imagine that you have some two classes here, user and doc, and that could be provided by some external library. So it's something what you are not allowed to extend. You cannot change it. And Kotlin allows you to away with extension functions to write some mapping functions, which looks like that you could call it directly to the user object or even on the list of users. So let's try some really simple example. So and that's it. And here you can call it. Do you see it? Or better? Okay, thanks. So you can see that when you define the extension function, or a simple function, you can call it directly on the user object. That's great. That's awesome. You can like add anything what you miss in the language or in any other like libraries or classes you are using. And you can do the same also for the list of users. And that is really great because even in the one extension function, you can call other extension function previously defined, and the code is really awesome, fluent. Everyone want to use it. Nice. Let's try to run it. And yes, you can see that we have like doc and docs. So great. Let's talk about some real life scenarios I experienced. So imagine that you inherit some code and its application integrating with Salesforce. And as you can see here, it's just some code creating your own Salesforce service. I will try to make it so. And as you can see here, there is like extension function created on string objects, so you can call to URL, and it's really great. So you probably inherit some really great code. And when you run it, you can see that it creates some sub-account for already existing account. And there is some like business logic which creates like the name of the sub account, like sub account name, and appended the parent account name. And you got a feature request that you need to change it because like your customers want to have this parent account name at the beginning. So how to do it? So you will open your service, like create a Salesforce account, and you want to edit the business logic. But what you see here, oh, we are lost because there is some create sub-account method defined on some external client. You can see it here, for example. This is some external Salesforce client handling the logic. So what to do now? Maybe you will need to like override the method. Maybe you will need to call the API directly. Maybe it's even not possible because the API don't provide such option and it's defined on the Salesforce side. So you try to like debug the external function. And if you are really lucky, what do you see here? It's extension function. And if you are really, really lucky, you realize that this function is not defined in the external library, but it's part of your code base. And let's imagine that you have like dozens of methods. Some of them are really defined on the external client. Some of them are defined extension function in your code base. So how to do it? It's terrible mess. So here, from my point of view, I would consider that it's a really bad pattern to define any crucial business logic to the extension methods, extension functions, because it messes the code, it messes the people. Anyone else is not able to like recognize at the first look whether it's extension or it's something provided by the external library. So always think what you are doing and whether it's actually needed. Why it's not this method like defined as some private method in your service? What's the reason? Why it's better to use it? The only reason was probably like the cool factor here. Because it looks nice. It looks much better than like calling some stupid old private method, right? So this is one example. Let's try another one. So I will leave this presentation mode for a while. And let's imagine that you have some layered application. You have some API layer, some domain objects, some repository and service with business logic connecting everything together. And it's really simple. Let's say that you have some risk controller, because I'm old, you would use GraphQL, right? And what you see here is that like this REST controller is getting users, like the domain objects from surveys and sorry. I always forget it. So again, you have some risk controller. It's getting users, like domain objects from some service. That's all. Nothing. No magic here. When you run it, you can see that it prints just some list of users. But when you check this method, you can see some like weird thing, and that is, it looks like that the user DTO method is defined on the business object on the user, and it's wrong because you like hardly connect your domain object with API layer, and you don't want to do it. So you decided to change it. So let's do it together. Okay, so this is definitely wrong. We don't want any connection to API layer on our business like objects. So remove this and define the mapping to the DTO class, to the API class. So how to do it? We have multiple options. I would choose like companion object and some function mapping from user. Okay, it's there. And now we need to like you can see that it's much longer than like the method in the business domain, but it's clear because you have some clear layer separation, so the design is better. You can replace the API layer with something else, and so on and so on. So this is, let's say, the good design. So you check the control, you fix the control as well to like call this from user method. Okay, so we are done. It's working. I'll try it. But after a while, you realize that this is not nice. It looks like old, boring Java static methods. It's nothing for Kotlin, right? So you decided to use the extension function and make the code much better. The code much better. So back to the DTO, remove this like terrible thing. It's too long and low. So let's use it that way. And also we have like this here, so the method is much like shorter and like better. Shorter is always better, right? So we are ready to fix the controller again. And here we go. So we can use the extension function to use the DTO. Nice, we are done. Check one thing here. IDEA will always show when you change something, right? There is no change in the controller. It's the same code as before. So you change something on the line, but there is no difference here. So if you will like maintain this class after 2 hours, 2 days, or someone else will do it, it will be like, oh, that's weird. We have some bad mapping in our business domain. Let's fix it. And what's the surprise? It's already fixed, but it's extension function. So again, the question here is, and actually I don't know the like answer here, but is this better than the code before? When you look and you see that it's good, it's some layer separation and your design is right, or is better to use something much shorter, something what you can nicely chain and make your code more fluent than like the companion function? I don't know. It's hard to answer, but it's something what you should consider when you are using this. And that's all. That's all from the extension functions demo. And continue with the scope functions. So again, scope functions, this is something super powerful in Kotlin. It allows you to make the code more fluent. It looks better, it's shorter. You can omit some boring if, null, else conditions. You can omit some temporary variables just to do some like expressions. And you can write everything as a single expression, and that's great. I really like scope functions. It's like let, run, also apply, and wait. And the let, run, also, and apply are defined as extension functions. So again, something what you already know. And the difference here is that you can call these like 4 functions on any objects in Kotlin. The only difference here is that they return something else and they reference some the object differently in the Lambda. The thing is that they are interchangeable, so you can like use almost any of this function you want. So that's the reason why Kotlin defines some use cases when you should use like which of this function, but it's quite like freely defined. So it's still not clear. It's still about your decision what you will use. So let's do a really brief intro to let and run. There's some equal because they can be considered as aliases. Let and run returns the result of the Lambda. So the code which runs inside let and run is returned. And the difference between let and run is that let uses it as object reference and run uses this. Run can be used for some object configuration or result calculation. Let is used usually for some transformation and non-nullable object handling. Also apply also could be considered aliases, and the difference from the previous to one is that they return like the object you call them, not the object from the Lambda there. And again, the differences between the object reference it versus this. And also this important is also should be used for some additional effects and apply for object configuration. Okay, so try some short demo to explore what they can do. Okay, so again, some super simple class or piece of code. Modern class is that we have some like user again, and we have some doc again. We will do some conversion again, and when we print this, yeah, we can see this user has some field like name, age, and driving license, and dog have name and age. So it's working probably. Let's make the code better. So the let here is something really awesome because instead of this, you can simply call this, and it will handle like the nullability for you. And you can see that inside the let, the it references the doc, the user. And the result of this, of the let, is like the result of the Lambda. So it's converted to the doc. You can see it here, right? I have the optional doc type here. So let's try it. Yeah, still working. Nice. What about the run? Run is about some like configuration and some like site calculations. So let's try to calculate number of cars for user with driving license. And here you see the difference. There is no it. You can like directly use fields from the user. So I can use it like this, and then calculate number of cars. This. Nice. The result of this is the result of Lambda. So this line is the result, right? So cars is integer because this function returns integer. Let's try to print it. And also print the user to check whether the driving license is set. And you can see here's false, dog, number of cars, and driving license is through here. So it's working, nice. And the code is quite nice. You don't need to like set call setters and call the method. It's single expression. Nice. What I would do let is for side effects. And let's say that you want to send some domain event that the dog was created, right? And that's all. So again, it works with the nullability. So if user is not null, convert it to dog. Let's take the dog. If the dog is not null, notify that dog is created. Awesome, fluent, nice chaining, one line, everything is great, right? Yeah, you can see that there is like this information that the dog was created. The last one I want to talk today is the apply. And let's check the get user method. It creates instance of the user entity, and user entity is not like data class in Kotlin. You can imagine it's, for example, Juke Pojo class or Hibernate entity, or something with empty constructor and set of fields you need to set. And normally you would do it that way. So create the user, call the setters, return user. With apply, you can do it much like shorter and nicer. So here I'm creating the instance, calling the apply, and here I'm in the this context. So and it's done. This is really useful. I use it on daily basis, especially when we are like working with two classes in our test, because it's shorter. You don't need to like define the user variable and so on. So this is really helpful. And it looks like you would use it some like constructor, right, on the user entity. So very great. So at this point, we know everything about scope functions, and we are ready to use it, right? So let's say that we finally got some like task to like extend some existing functionality, and we want to show to the world that we know the scope functions, right? So we have this. Some super simple player surveys returning active players from database. And it's super nice right now because it's just single line method. Oh, short, clear. Everyone wants know what is doing. Let's run it. Yeah, some two players are returned. And we have some tasks to do. One is that for each player, we want to call some external score surveys and calculate score for the user. So how to do it? And remember, we want to use only single expression. So we'll like iterate over the players, but still we need to return the player back. So let's call the apply and set the score from the score service. Using the player ID. Nice. Let's try it. And you can see the score is already set. Nice. Single expression. This could be still like formatted to single line. Nice. But we have like another task. We want to like publish the domain object of the user with the score. So for each user, we need to like send the current snapshot to some like notification service, for example. So to do it, it's some side effects would definitely also. And let's go entity publisher and player. Here's one issue already because we have like the it variable inside the map and we override it inside the also. So I will rename it to player here, exactly. So yeah, we are done. Let's try it. And yes, in the logs, you can see that the score was calculated and both of the users were published to the entity publisher. So great, still quite good, I would say. Uh, and then we have another task, and it does that we need to calculate the total score and send it to some metric service. So here we need to work with the list already. So leaving this part, and we will continue here. And again, it's something like some side effect, so use also again. And what to do here? For example, we still need, right now we by this, we converted the list to integer. So we need to make some list of users again from it. So for example, by run, we can call the metric service. Yeah. And this is currently in the run scope, right? So it's integer. Everything clear. I hope that's, yes, this is. And we can see that the total score metrics got the 13. Nice. So it's still really great, but then some root operation / SRE user want us to add some logs because it's totally messy what's going on production. And we have to add some log at the beginning of the method and at the end of the method, and also add some information how many users was actually returned. So it's a little bit tricky, but we can do it, right? We are experts in scope functions. So again, we can consider the log as some side effect. So use also here as well, and do it that way. And it here is the list, right? You know it, totally clear. And what to do with the first log? It's a little bit tricky because it must be the first code which will be executed in this method. So let's try it. We can do it. So it's similar. But then we still need single expression, so we need to execute the rest of the code. So we also need to retype it because result of this is unit, so not list of users. So let's try to apply. For example, let's try to run. And it's there. Try it, test it. It's working. We can see the log message here. We can see the log message here. So we are done. We are the best of the world. And now is the time to open the pull request and show it to our colleagues. And I'm pretty sure they will also tell you that you are the best of the best. And they will need a couple of hours to understand what's going on there. And especially in case they will see this method in, for example, just the UI of the GitHub, because there will be no hints like this. So what do you think? I like it. I would use it every day. And that's all from the scope functions. So my conclusion here is find a balance. The scope and extension functions are really extremely powerful. But remember that you don't need and you don't have to use it all the time and everywhere. Just remember that you are not the only one with like writing, reading, and maintaining the code. And even if you are the only one, try to imagine that you will need to do it next hour, next day. So maybe you will also need to understand what's going on there. Yeah, and that's all. So thank you, and questions. Can you please repeat why you don't like using extension functions for objects conversion? I never said that. I just show you an example that for other people and even for you for a while, from some certain places, it can look like that the conversion is done on like different objects. For example, you can write extension function for your database connection, and because you don't know where it is, it could be confusing. That's all.
Hello. I would like to ask you, you were explaining the DTO and converting to DTO. From your experience and practice, what's the best place for those extension functions? Like a separate file, or like put it to the DTO file, or?
That's great questions. Let's say that the last style we are using is that the API layer, what mean the REST controller and the API classes, the DTO classes, are in the single file, in the single API file. So you have everything in like before your eyes. Everything is like encapsulated to single file, to single module, and it doesn't leak to like different packages and so on and so on. So this is the place. And also this never-ending question: should we define the function inside the DTO object, or should it be like on the top of the file? I don't know. It is something what you should decide, and it depends how long the like file is, how long the class is. It's about like what's the preference of your team. I don't know the answer. With Kotlin, you have too many ways how to do something that you need to work with this with the situation, because it's not so easy like in Java. It was like single way how to do anything. You had anonymous classes, and this was all. But right now you have like many options how to do the same thing, and I don't know the answer. So it depends. It depends on the context, depends on the team, depends on the project, it depends on the people you are working together, and so on.
But basically, in your project, you have them in controller. So you are doing the mapping logic in controller and then working just with business objects.
In case it's not some like shared class, we have all the DTOs in the same file as well as controllers, and the mapping methods are there. But let's say the situation I showed you with like the extension function for the conversion, this is something what we discussed like 3 weeks ago, because previously we used like the companion object for that. And then we realized, okay, it would be nicer to use the extension method. But it looks like we still have the mapping on the wrong class, right? So where's the truth? I don't know.
Thank you.
Don't you think that it's better to have this conversion functions in different file, on separate file? For example, we have Mabstract library in Java, and it's like different interface that contains all mappings. So why we can just create some separate file in Kotlin where we have all such mappings, but in extension functions?
We can.
But okay, what you didn't mention such approach, and probably you don't think it's
I don't know
a good
why,
idea.
but I used Mabstract in like 2 companies before, And when we switch to Kotlin, we don't see like any reason, because with the data classes, it's something different. You don't need to map the setters because it's super easy to call it directly. So why to use some like generation, some code generation? I don't like it. I even don't like Juke for it, because it generates something for you, what you need to use. For me, after the years, it's always better to maintain your code than something what is generated, because at the end, the effort to maintain it, fix it, extend it is much cheaper than like debugging, fixing, extending, looking for abstract documentation. Yeah,
Well,
it's just my personal opinion. I don't
didn't-
tell you don't use abstract.
I didn't mean. Sorry, I didn't mean to use abstract in Kotlin. I just mentioned that in Java we have, if we use abstract, we have some different interface, and we can inject it anywhere where we want to use it. So we have some reusable bunch of methods to map objects. So you suggested to put such mapping extension methods in controller or in service, but
No. I will stop you. With Java, I would probably use it as well. But as Kotlin provides me a way how to code with much less like characters, with much less lines and so on, you like switch the paradigm in your head, and you will start to use like much easier structures, much easier code. And I simply don't see any reason why, for a couple of quite straightforward API object, why we should introduce some interfaces, why we should introduce, and for that data classes in Kotlin, you are not able to like extend it simply, right? You don't, you can define interfaces, but why? Because you need to repeat all the fields as well. So Kotlin will move you more to like domain-driven design, and not like trying to share everything to create some super shared utility classes and super shared like base object and so on. But your code is like lighter, it's simpler. So why don't use like 3 lines of code to map to target the API object, and why to introduce abstract? That's why I'm saying. In Java, that's a different situation for me. And before the records, I don't know records already. But with Java 8, for example, I would use abstract.
okay, thanks.
I don't know. As I told you, I'm not here for the theory. Thank you. You can. So yes, I'm the smart one here. And do you have any project Y extension function? No. That was something I was thinking about, that for each of your project, you could probably create some set of utilities, some set of like extension methods for string, extension methods, extension functions for list, map, and so on and so on. But the question is why? Do you really use the same thing all the time for all the projects? For example, the mapping from string to URL, as I showed you. This is so simple to write it again that I would be much happier to have it with some like internal or private function, like single purpose function as part of some Kotlin file, than try to share it everywhere, because it's super confusing. Then another bunch of like developers or other teams will like work with the code base, and they will think that the string has some new magic to URL function. Why? You don't know it. You would need to check the imports for it. Maybe you will need to click on that, But still, when you like open it, and it will start with something like packages com sentinel1 or com Productboard, common something 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 something. So what's this? I don't know why we should use it. Is it tested? So it's always about, do you really need to extend string in a manner that you will force that to all the classes? Although I don't know. We are not in that situation. So we are trying to use the extension function in the closest scope you are working within, because you know where it is defined. You know that it's not affecting any other code. That's like my personal recommendation here. But definitely you can. It could work, but not for me. I'm hungry. So that's all. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Vašku, for your presentation. Thank you so much for your questions and for joining us today. That's all from the content part, but pizza is waiting for you at the kitchen. Also, we would be really happy if you can provide us and the speakers with the feedback, how we can improve as an organizational part, as well how we can improve as a speakers, and how we can deliver the presentation much better. Also, for the future, we will probably be organizing even more meetups, so we will appreciate your tips, and we'll be sending as well the follow-ups with the recordings and with everything, and probably if some of you would like to speak at some of our upcoming meetups, feel free to let me know, and we have always the space open for you. So thank you so much for joining, and feel free to also ask additional questions to our speakers, and see you soon.